Hello everyone, my name is Adeeba and I'm from Katihar Medical College. And today is the part 10 of Plant Kingdom. We have already completed algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, and from this portion we will be doing spermatophyta, the seeded plants, angiosperms and gymnosperms. First we will go through with gymnosperms and then the angiosperms. The spermatophyta, the seed plants, dominance of seed plants on land. The seed plants form the dominant vegetation with over 2 lakh to 50,000 species. So, all the species that we have already seen in the previous plants like algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes, they were not very the diversity which was present was limited to only 20,000 to 40,000 to 50,000, but not more than that. But when we see these spermatophytes, they are very diverse. They have a huge type of species from ranging to around 2 lakh to 2 lakh 50,000. Their success on land is due to the following reasons. So there are some reasons why these plants could thrive in the conditions which were not really very favorable. And hence, the plants they survive in the conditions which are not favorable, then only they are capable of heading, then only the species will evolve. This is the thing which comes with evolution. Evolution states the survival of the fittest. So when the plants are fit, then only they're going to survive, and then only there will be a huge variety, the species variety, and then they will dominate. So currently the dominating plants are angiosperms and gymnosperms, the seeded plants. The formation of seed, the first and the foremost reason because of which they are the dominating plant is formation of seed. Seeds are more resistant to desiccation and the exchange of temperature. Why the seeds are desiccating, uh, are resistant to desiccation? Because of the covering. These seeds are covered by some or the other thick covering or may be covered by a fruit or hard covering due to which the desiccation is nearly impossible in the seed. Now, seeds are more resistant to desiccation and extremes of temperature. They provide protection to the embryo and also food for germination. So, they are going to provide protection to the embryo, and when the suitable temperature or the condition arrives, they will germinate and give rise to new plant. Okay. The formation of pollen tube for fertilization of the egg. Now, why the presence of the formation of pollen tube is essential. This will help in the fertilization, and this will actually help in selective fertilization. Only the selective anther for the female gamete, that is going to fertilize by forming by the formation of the pollen tube. So the first and the foremost condition for the fertilization is formation of pollen tube. This eliminates the dependence on water to bring about fertilization. Obviously, when fertilization it depends upon water, what happens that whenever there is drought condition or whenever the water is not available, the fertilization is nearly impossible. But in the cases of the seeded plant, the formation of pollen tube takes place. And how does the function of pollen tube takes place? The female gametophyte, it is plastic and it has receptors. So whenever the anther comes on the surface, there is formation of pollen tube and then it will fertilize the egg present in the female gametophyte. So the dependence on water is eliminated. And when the dependence of water is eliminated, they are very easily they only depend upon air or the other animal when the pollen grain to stick to the animal body and then that particular animal is going to eat the fruit from the other plant pollination very easily takes place. So formation pollen tube is also an important factor for the fertilization of devices for seed and seed dispersal. This is what I'm talking about, the pollination. Now these plants they have different devices for the widespread dispersal of seed and fruit. For the widespread dispersal, the structure of anther. The anther does have long, slender stalk and then the anther is present and inside the anther pollen grains are present and this anther covering is not very high. Whenever air blows or whenever some animal tries to eat the fly, even the bees, when they come and suck the nectar from the fly, what happens that this anther breaks and the pollen grain will stick to the surface of the bird, and when that bird is going to suck nectar from another flower, the pollen they shed, and when they shed it, they will fertilize the gametophytic, female gametophytic body in the another flower and fertilization takes place. Development of vascular system. Yes, the development of vascular system is also an important thing which helps in the evolution of gymnosperms and angiosperms. Pteridophytes, they also had vascular system, well developed vascular system, but they had seed habitat. The first time the preparation for the seed formation was taking place in pteridophytes, and when that successfully occurred, they got converted to gymnosperms and then angiosperms. So development of vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Xylem allows underground water absorption from the to transport to the leaves, and the phloem ensures distribution of food manufactured by leaves to various plants are very crucial. So what are the 4 points that tomatophyte or the seed plant have which dom- which help in their domination in the whole ecosystem? First is the formation of seeds. Second is the formation of pollen tube for fertilization of the egg and the elimination of dependence on water for fertilization. Third is devices for seed and fruit dispersal. And fourth is development of vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Development of seed habitat. Now, seed formation of seed habitat was first developed in primitive and extinct group of gymnosperms called pteridosperms or cycadophylicales. So, then those pteridophytes they started the formation of seed and it was termed as seed habitat. When they evolved, they were called as pteridosperms. And those pteridosperms or cycadophylicales, they have the formation. They started the formation of seed and it was termed as seed habitat. So how the development of seed habitat takes place, we look. It took place due to the following development. What were the developments that helped in the formation of a seed habitat? First is in seed plant, two types of sporangia develop on special sporophytes. These are microsporangium, the pollen sac, and the megasporangium or ovule. The microsporangium or the anther we have seen, and this ovule, it is also funnel-shaped megasporangia cell. Megasporangia. Egg cell. Cell is produced from a megaspore which develops within the ovule. Inside the funnel-shaped ovule, there is an egg cell. The ovule remains attached to the parent plant. When in a fly, the ovule will remain attached. Then only the formation of seed can take place. Then the embryo it will get the nourishment from the plant, and only the formation of seed is possible. Pollen sac produces a large number of pollen grains. It will produce a large number of pollen grains and reaching the stigma, the pollen grain germinate to form pollen tubes. And when it enters into the ovule through a pore, the micropore, there is the presence of a pore on uh, the ovule, on the surface of the ovule, which is termed as micropyle. Through this micropyle, the pollen they enter and only in a kind of a fertilization that is known as triple fertilization. Two pollen grains enter, but usually one pollen grain enters and it will fertilize the egg and formation of zygote takes place. Now, two male gametes travel through the pollen tube and they are liberated close to egg nucleus. Now, one male gamete will fertilize the egg cell. So, so more water is required for the fertilization. Was there any need of water? No. Only the formation pollen tube was required. Zygote develops into embryo within the ovule. The ovule forms the seed and the ball forms the core. The balls which were present, they will form the core of seed. And the zygote which is present, it will develop into embryo and this embryo will give rise to seed. Embryo at this stage represents the tiny plant tip which is dormant and is protected by silk coat. This embryo is a tiny plant which is protected by seed coat. This is the seed coat which is formed by the layers of the ovule. Under the moisture, this germinates and forms a seedling. We have seen in case of chana, the chickpeas, when we give them moisture, when we soak them in water, what happens? That sprouts are seen. We can see the presence of seedling. In a seed, when we germinate it, there is a greenish part which develops, which is termed as seedling. When we give the appropriate amount of moisture and appropriate amount of temperature to the seed. So it is said that there are three generations which are locked in a seed. How? The seed encloses the three generations, one within the other. The ovule or megasporangium belongs to the parent diploid for the fifth generation. The this ovule it is 2N, which is the parent generation. Haploid and megaspore develops in the ovule. This ovule which develops formed by the meiosis of megaspore mother cell. There are megaspore mother cell present around, and from the megaspore mother cell, this haploid ovule develops. The megaspore divides and forms gametophyte, and if this megaspore is going to divide, and it will give rise to N, that is gametophytic generation. One cell of the gametophyte differentiates to form the egg cell, and thus female gametophyte along with the egg within the ovule constitutes the second haploid gametophytic generation. So this is the haploid gametophytic generation, which is the egg cell. It is N. Now the zygote which is formed by the fusion of N and 2N, male gamete and the female gamete, it will give rise to the production of again sporophytic generation. If I see this is we assume this as an ovule, female gametophyte, it is 2N and the which is present inside it, it is N formed by the production of formed by megaspore mother cell by meiosis. And when the fertilization takes place, what happens is that this pollen, which is N, and the egg cell, which is M, it fuses together. And when the fusion takes place, two M's formed again. Cell which is formed, it is 2N. So there are three generations which are locked in a seed. Now, this embryo which is formed, embryo which usually presents in next sporophytic generation, it develops within a gametophyte, which self is enclosed in a seed coat belonging to the previous sporophytic generation. So it is itself in a seed coat which was present from the previous generation. And thus, the seed consists of three generations, one within the other. First one is the parent sporophytic in the form of persistent nucleus seed coat. So, the seed which will be formed will have a nucellus or the seed coat which is from the parent generation. The female gametophyte that's first formed. So, the food storage, which is the nucellus which is present. It is the female gametophyte which will store food and future sporophyte enclosed in the form of embryo. So there the embryo present. There, this is 2N, which is from the parent, then food material from the female gametophyte that is N, and this embryo, which is the next generation, it is 2N. So there are three generations which are actually logged in a seed. Now, gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are the first plant ever to bear seeds. Now, these gymnosperms, there are two kind of seeds which are produced. The first one is the naked seed, and the other one is the flowering plants in which the seed is covered. The gymnos and sperma means gymnos means naked and sperma means seed. Form an intermediate group between pteridophytes and angiosperms. So these are actually an intermediate group which are going to relate pteridophytes to the angiosperms. In these plants, ovaries are not enclosed by ovary wall. So these plants they are not enclosed by an ovary wall. They remain exposed before and after fertilization. Even before fertilization, they are exposed, and even after fertilization, they are exposed. The seeds are non-covered and are called naked. That is why they are called as gymnosperma naked seeded. So there are about 900 species of living gymnosperms. The cone-bearing plants, the conifers, form the largest with 500 living species. The conifers which we see are actually the gymnosperms. They are the most predominant plants in cooler regions in India. The plants which we see in the hilly areas, they are gymnosperms. In India, they occur in northern mountain ranges, including the Himalayas. The common conifers species are pine, fir, spruce, cedar, cypress, and larch. So, some of the common species which we can see there are pine, fir, spruce, cedar. Cedar we have heard many of the times, and cypress and larch. Now, Orchidia thrives well at the lower elevations and in warmer climates. So, one of them is Orchidia, which even thrives well in the lower elevation and better form climates. Sequoia, which is the redwood tree. It is the largest, the tallest plant, more than 100 meters in height and one of the tallest plant species. Which one is sequoia? Now, the general characters of the gymnosperm. Habitat of gymnosperms, we have already seen that they are usually present in the cooler areas. In the hilly areas, they are the best to thrive there. The gymnosperms are woody perennial plants which include medium-sized trees or tall trees or maybe tree shrubs. The tall trees like sequoia, the medium plants which we have seen, pine, spruce, and fir, they formed dominant vegetation about 200 million years ago. So this is how evolution takes place. First, the dominant one were the gymnosperm, and then now the dominant are the angiosperms. Now they have been replaced by angiosperms and as the dominant vegetation. And if some other kind of condition occurs in our ecosystem, it is possible that the angiosperms become the some other kind of plant might take over angiosperm and they become the more dominant plant because evolution is an ever going process. First, algae were present, and then when algae came to land, it became xerophytes, and then pteridophytes. Now the pteridophyte, a kind of a seed habitat, starts taking place and they get converted into gymnosperms. And now angiosperms are the dominant one because they took over the gymnosperms for more than 200 million years ago. The external features: the moon plant is sporophyte or heterosporous. The sporophytic plant body means two and heterosporous means two different kinds of spores are produced. Male and female gametic pipes are inconspicuous and depend on nutrition on the sporophyte. So, the male and the female gametophyte which are formed, they depend on the for nutrition on male and female sporophytic plant. Conifers have one main axis for growth. The growth pattern is known as monopodial growth. They have one main axis like this, and they grow in the same axis, and leaves are borne on the lateral side. The lower branches are longer than the upper branches. The lower branches we have seen in conifers, they look something like this. The lower branches are always larger, the upper one are like this. So, as we see in a Christmas tree, that the upper branches are shorter and the lower are longer, gives a characteristic conical Christmas tree like shape. A plant possesses a well developed root system. There is a well developed root system. In finest, the roots are in symbiotic association with some fungus. Such roots are called as mycorrhizal roots. It is important to remember what mycorrhizal roots, that some fungus they have an association with roots of thymus. There are two fungal associations which we have studied up till now. The first one is the association with algae, which is termed as lichen, and the other one is mycorrhizal, which is fungal association with the roots of thymus. Now, in cycas, some roots possess cyanobacteria or grey-green algae, nostoc or anabena. This is also important that in cycas, they possess cyanobacteria or grey-green algae. Now, these roots are called as coralloid roots. So, two type of roots. The first one is mycorrhizal root, and the other one is coralloid roots. They help in nitrogen fixation. The first symbiotic association is actually helpful in extraction of nutrition, and the other one is helpful in the nitrogen fixation. The stem is unbranched in cycas and branched in pinus and citrus. We have to remember that the stem is unbranched in cycas, but it is branched in pinus and citrus. The leaves, they may be simple or compound and are well adapted to withstand the extremes of temperature, humidity, and wind because they have a needle-like. The seeds, they are almost needle, that which we usually see in conifers. In conifers, the needle-like leaves reduce the surface area and prevent the plant body from desiccation because of the absence of water in the area. There is not much water, but humidity is there and dry conditions are present. The thick cuticle in some stomata also help to reduce water loss. So, the first thing that they have adapted is the needle-like leaf, and the second is the thick cuticle and something stomata, which help them to reduce water reproduction. So, the main plant body, we know that it is sporophytic. Now, this sporophytic plant body give rise to production of heterospores. Now, these heterospores, they are of usually two types, megaspores and microspores. Then, in a plant, the body possesses megasporophylls and microsporophylls. Inside these megaspores and microspores are produced. When the fusion takes place, what happens? That the formation of zygote, which is actually an embryo, takes place, and a seed habitat without the presence of any naked, because there is absence of flower, the seeds which are produced there will be naked. So the main plant is sporocyte and heterosporous. The haploid spores are of two types, microspores and megaspores. They are produced in sporangia born in the sporophylls. Now the sporophylls are arranged spirally along the axis forming a lax or compact. In a conifer, there is the presence of lax were compact right at the top of the plant. So lots of compact strobili or cones are found. Now, unlike paraphytes and pteridophytes and gymnosperms, the male and the female reproductive organ are present on separate cones. In bryophytes and pteridophytes, there were plants in which the male and the female gametophytes were present on the same cone. But in gymnosperms and in angiosperms, the male and female gametophytes, these reproductive organs were present on the separate cones. Now, these cones can be born on the same plant as well as and on the other two different plants as well. So, the strobila bearing microsporocytes and microsporangia called as microsporangiate or male strobili. So, the strobili, the cone which will have microsporangia, it will call it as male strobili. And the microspores they develop into male gametophytic generation, which is reduced into only a limited number of cells. This reduced gametophyte is called as pollen grain. It is a very small one or two cell structure which is called as pollen grain. Now, development of pollen grain takes place within the microsporangia. Inside the microsporangia, from the microspore mother cells, pollen grain, which is a very reduced structure, one or two cell structure is formed and it is called as pollen grain. Now, the cones bearing megasporophyle with ovules or megasporangia are called as macrosporangia or female strobila. Obviously, the megasporophylls, the cones which will bear the megasporophyle or ovules or megasporangia, they are called as macrosporangia or female strobila. The male and the female cones of strobila may be born on the same tree as in Pinus or on the different tree as in Cypress. As I have said that the cones can be present on the same plant, which is in Pinus, and might be on the different plant, which is in Cypress. The megasperm of the cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus that is protected by envelopes, and the whole structure is called as ovule. So, the megasperm of the cell is differentiated from one of the cells of nucellus. Inside the female gametophyte, this ovary, there is nucellus present, and from the cells of the nucellus, megasperm is differentiated, and this megasperm will give rise to production of ovule. Now, these ovules they are born in the megasporophylls, which are clustered to form female forms. So, a lot of female gametes in a cluster in this form, a cluster is present of megasporophylls, and this cluster is called as female strobila. A megasperm divides meiotically to form four haploid megaspores. One of the megaspore develops into a multicellular female gametophyte that bears two or more archegonia of female sex organs. So, first the megasperm cell, it will divide meiotically, and when meiosis takes place, we know that four cells are formed. From these four cells, from these four haploid cells, one, one of which develops into a multicellular female gametophyte, and it will bear two or more archegonia or female subsorgan. Now, the male and the female gametophyte in gymnosperm do not have an independent existence. There is no independent existence of two gametophyte. They will have to depend on the sporophytic body. Unlike in bryophyte and pteridophyte, where the gametophytes have an independent living existence, and in them, the the sporophytic body, it was actually a parasite on both of them. The pollens are released from the microsporangia and are carried with air currents to the ovules. Now, whenever these pollen they are shed, they through the air current they get carried to the ovules, and after fertilization, zygote develops into embryo. Now, and the ovules into seeds. So the zygote it will develop into embryo, and the ovule they are into seed. But the seeds they are called as naked, not covered because of the absence of any flower. If the flower is present, it will get converted into fruit. But due to the absence of flower, they are not converted into fruit. which is why the seed is naked. Economic importance of gymnosperms. First of all, the seeds are edible. The seeds of Pinus gerardia are edible. They are eaten as dry fruits after roasting, which are called as chili sauce. So the seeds of Pinus, they are eaten as dry fruit. Ornaments. A number of gymnosperms are grown as ornamental plants, example, Tuja, Cypress, Cypress, and Paracaria. So ornamental plants, pteridophytes, and gymnosperms. Timber. The timber of cedrus, it is very important because the hardwood, the wood that they possess actually very hard and it is used in the furniture. So gymnosperms like cedrus and podocarpus, toxodium, larix, pinus, etc. provide soft wood. Timber is used for making light furniture, plywood, packing cases, matchsticks, railway sleepers, etc. So, timber is obtained from citrus, ABs, podocarpus, and toxodium, laurus, pinus, and this is used in many cases, like in the formation of furniture, plywood, and packing cases. Paper is also extracted. A number of gymnosperms like Picia, pinus, and laurus, and ABs are used in their manufacture of paper. Medicinal uses. Ephedrine, a drug which is obtained from etc., is used to relieve asthma and other respiratory ailments. Essential oils, a lot of oils for the perfumery, they are obtained from gymnosperms. The oils for perfumery, soaps, and deodorants are obtained from the pinus, AB, cedrus, and cypress. Beverages, narcotics, tubes and stem of Cyprus revoluta are fermented for making wine. Therefore, beverages and narcotics were also used. Falling grains of cypress are narcotic. The seeds of cypress Temani yield a narcotic. Resins, exudate of a number of conifers are distilled to obtain a resin and turpentine. Resin is used in sealing foams, in paper making, waterproofing, and then making oilcloth. And this turpentine is used as a solvent in paint and polishes. We have seen dirty yellowish colored liquid turpentine, which is used in polishing, usually in the furniture factory. The turpentine oil is used. Medically, it is used in relieving pains and expelling worms and curing bronchitis. So, two of the medicinal uh, things are obtained. First one is the tetrasaminum is narcotics, and the third is turpentine. Turpentine is also used medically in expelling worms and curing bronchitis. Now, Canada balsam is used as a mounting needle in the microscopic studies. In mounting needle is Canada balsam, which is used in microscopic labs, uh, microbiology labs for microscopic studies. Miscellaneous uses bark of hemlock is used in tanning. Large cypress trees are used in thatching huts. The huts which are to see in the areas, they have the leaves because the leaves of cypress are large. They are used in thatching huts, making baskets in room. Cypress, cypress or camelic is which grow in wild, serve as source of sago. It is a pure starch extracted in liquid state and then solidified to form small granules. Sago, which is sabudana, it is also obtained from gymnosperms. So it is actually a pure starch which is extracted in liquid state from the from these plants and then they're solidified to small granules. Tender leaves of cypress are added in curry. Some of the leaves which are added in curry, like tender leaves of cypress. So some important economic importance is that they have some edible seeds. The second is the ornaments. Third is that they help in the extraction of timber, like in gymnosperms. They Gymnosperms like filters are ABs, podocarpus, of sodium laurets and farmers. They export softwood, which is helpful in making furniture, which is in lightweight. The plywood, the seeds which are used in the railway paper making as well. Now, the medicinal uses effective a drug which is obtained from the plant, etc. It is used in the use of acne. There are some essential oils are also obtained which are used in perfumeries, soaps, and deodorants, beverages, and narcotics. So the sequence from cycles of the they are also fermented for making wine and some seeds. The cycles they use a narcotic resin. So resin is also obtained from conifers, and this resin is used in like drawings and paper making, in waterproofing, and sometimes turpentine, which is obtained. It is also helpful in polishing the surfaces, and if used in a medicinal way, it helps in expelling worms. Now, some miscellaneous uses. So, the bark of hemlock it is used in tannin. The second, that the leaves, which are large leaves of cypress, they help in thatching house, making baskets. And sometimes from the cypress, we extract a pure starch-like substance, which is extracted in liquid state, and then it is solidified. We form small granules, and this is from the sabudana sago seeds which we see. And the, in the spices, the tender leaves of cypress are also added in curries for the as a spice. So we have completed the economic importance of gymnosperm. In the next session, we will see classification of gymnosperm and some important types of gymnosperms which are there, some important plants of gymnosperms. We will look them into great detail. Thank you so much.